Italy, May 17th, 1944. Ink-black pre-dawn lingers over the spine of the Apennines, drenching the rutted trail of Monte Battaglia in a chilling silence. Somewhere above the tree line, a battered jeep idles in darkness, engine ticking quietly. 3 American soldiers clustered around its compact hood, breath frosting in the cold. Private First Class Charlie Munro finishes fiddling with the straps that bind their secret weapon. A hastily issued 57mm recoilless rifle, brand new to the theater, barely field-tested. Corporal Tom Alvarez kneels in mud, hands trembling slightly with anticipation as he checks the breech and polishes the single anti-tank round like a talisman. Sergeant Red Duval crouches by the road, tracing old Italian dust with a stick, mapping imagined enemy movements. On the other side of the valley, the enemy stirs. German armor, once held in reserve, is moving up for a counterattack meant to drive the Allies from the heights before summer truly arrives. A Panzer IV, battered but deadly, creeps up a winding road half-choked with landslides and stray sheep. Its commander, Oberfeldwebel Hans Kruger, knows all too well. This ground can turn friend and foe alike into ghosts. Context: a war of attrition and imbalance. Since winter, the fighting on the Italian front has devoured men, machines, and morale. The Germans hold the high passes, controlling the routes to the Po Valley and beyond. For the Allies, every advance is paid for in blood and ingenuity. Allied tankers have learned the hard way. Narrow switchbacks and low clouds spell disaster for anything bigger than a jeep. German panzers, if they reach the ridges, melt into legend, almost unstoppable, always deadly. In the shadow of this imbalance, Allied command makes a desperate wager. Light, mobile crews will ambush German armor using nimble jeeps fitted with the latest American wonder weapon, a recoilless rifle promising tank-killing firepower without the weight. The assignment falls to Duval's squad. 3 men, 1 weapon, no second chances. Early morning, Monte Battaglia. Fate in preparation. An hour before sunrise, Duval briefs his men for the last time. Munro, the youngest, is a farm boy from Iowa, best shot in the regiment. Alvarez, a machinist's son from Chicago, has a mechanic's ear and nerves of steel. Duval himself, a Virginia mountain man and veteran of North Africa, carries the burden of keeping 2 kids alive in nightmare country. They scout positions along the road. Duval marks out a kill zone, a blind curve, shadowed by pines, perfect for a close, desperate shot. Alvarez cuts brush for camouflage. Munro maps out fallback routes through ravines and goat trails. They practice, loading quietly, bracing the rifle. Time from contact to fire in under 20 seconds. Duval repeats, no heroics. If it turns ugly, use the jeep's speed. Save the gun or save your skins. Allied infantry columns shuffle past, faces hollow, boots caked in mud, some flashing thumbs up, others not meeting their gaze. Word spreads through the ranks. Duval's crazy squad is trying to hunt a tank with a jeep. Under cover of false bravado, the real feeling is clear. No one expects them to come back. Tension builds, the waiting. As the blue light before dawn crawls up the mountain, the men fall into silence. Duval sits in the cab, hand on the starter, watching clouds swirl. Alvarez and Munro check the weapon one last time, hearts pounding. Down in the valley, Panzer IV's engine growls, echoing up the hillside. German infantry clears the road ahead, probing for mines, rifles ready. Above the pass, the radio crackles. Allied scouts have been sighted. Time is running short. If you see us punch it, you run. Don't look back, Duval says, half to himself, half to his squad. Munro breathes deep, reciting the names of his sisters. Alvarez closes his eyes, praying in Spanish. A solitary crow flaps overhead. Then, the clank and whine of steel treads grows louder below. Goliath is climbing the mountain, and David is ready with 1 shot. The Panzer approaches. The roar of the tank's Maybach engine pulses against the stone walls, a deep metallic growl echoing in the mountain air. Munro lowers his binoculars. Mud splashes as the Panzer IV rounds the bend, its mottled gray hull crowned by streaks of rain, branches wedged into track guards. Kruger, the German commander, scans for partisans, unaware the most dangerous thing on the road is waiting in shadows. Alvarez steadies the recoilless rifle, wedged into an improvised yoke strapped to the jeep's hood. He mutters, "She holds. Don't let her slip." Munro's gloved fingers wrap around the firing grip, knuckles whitening. Duval glares at the approaching tank, counting down meters. 30, 20. Wait for it. Let him come close. German infantry fans out ahead, but the Panzer is moving faster, eager to break through before Allied guns sight them. For Monroe and Alvarez, everything narrows to the weapon, the target, and the knowledge. With one shot, they must wound a giant. Technical details: weapon, jeep, and tactics. American engineers had shipped the 57mm recoilless rifle as an answer to Italian hills where standard anti-tank guns couldn't travel. The weapon, weighing just under 120 pounds, fired a shape-charge round at 381 meters sprecking, good for up to 700 meters, but with best effect at under 50. Mounting it to the jeep was a brigade mechanic's midnight miracle. Wooden braces, steel straps, sandbags for counterweight. Firing position angled for a narrow arc with ring and post sights for quick aiming. Protection for the crew, the jeep's windshield folded down, reducing risk of glass shatter from muzzle blast. Alvarez adjusts for wind, hands damp. He checks the balance, rocks the jeep slightly. A gamble, but the only way. Monroe practices breathing, sighting, imagining the round's path. The math is ruthless. Panzer IV's front is tough, but below the turret ring, the armor is thin. The shot of shots needs luck and skill. The ambush seconds feel like years. Kruger's tank closes to 15 meters, grinding gears as it approaches the kill zone. Monroe aims, keeping sights fixed as Kruger's gun veers, uncertain if American infantry is lurking. Duval signals, eyes hard, steady, don't fire fast. Rain patters like nervous drum beats. German infantry, hearing something, pause, but the tank pushes ahead, sure that no truck or jeep is a threat. A bird erupts from roadside nettles, startling Alvarez. For a split second, Kruger's head snaps sideways, searching. Monroe whispers, "Now or never." Duval counts. 3, 2, 1, fire. Monroe squeezes the trigger. The recoilless rifle unleashes a flat thunder crack. A tongue of flame bursts from the muzzle. The jeep rocks in place. Alvarez's ears ring with the pressure wave. The shell slices through mist, smashing into the Panzer IV's lower turret, right in the neck. Steel rings. The whole tank shudders. Impact, the consequences. Kruger yells for return fire, barking at the gunner to traverse, but their view is blocked by mud, rising steam, and confusion. Shrapnel peels away below the cupola. Impact force kicks the turret off axis. Alvarez, stunned by the backblast, fumbles for another shell, but the loader breech is hot, and the jeep shudders as its tires half-slip into a rain-filled rut. The Panzer's machine guns spit, chewing up stone, wood chips, and air. Duval revs the engine, gasping, "Go, go now!" Monroe dives for cover as the jeep slides back, engine screaming, the rifle smoky and half-melted from the heat. German infantry try to close the gap. Some fire wildly, but dense brush and confusion slow them. Kruger curses. His tank is wounded, gears grinding, turret struggling to rotate. He orders the hull to reverse. Smoke pours from the engine compartment. Escape and survival. The jeep bombs down the trail through boulders and water-filled craters, scraping past fallen logs and sheep that scatter in panic. Down the road, Allied infantry spots the commotion. Some race up, firing rifles into the valley. The jeep's engine coughs but holds, sparks flying as Duval pushes her to absolute limits. Behind, the stricken Panzer IV staggers backward, track spinning, engine now coughing black smoke. Alvarez, shaking, looks over his shoulder. "Did we kill it?" Monroe, face wet with sweat, answers, "We stopped him. That's enough." Duval, voice dry as cracked leather, sums up, "One shot, one story for the ages." The legend begins by noon. Word spreads among Allied forces. Jeep team just stopped a Panzer IV. Tank crews toast the squad in mess tents. Engineers sign up for recoilless rifle training. Reporters arrive to photograph the battered Jeep, the charred, smoking Panzer IV perched at a mountain switchback. For Monroe, Alvarez, and Duval, the hardest part is believing that 3 men, 1 Jeep, and a single weapon could cripple a legend. The rest of the division starts calling them David's Squad, passing their story from foxhole to command tent. The incident echoes. Allied command responds. As word of the Mountain Pass skirmish races up, Allied command channels, battalion radios crackle with excitement. Engineers crawl over the battered Jeep, inspecting the impact marks, the warped yoke that took the brunt of the backblast, and the pitted lands of the gun. Major McKinley, division ordnance officer, scribbles notes as Monroe and Alvarez recount everything. The range, the aiming, the reload that never was. The Jeep, battered and mud-caked, stands beside a half-burned Panzer IV, their fates now intertwined forever. McKinley radios headquarters, his message blunt. Recoilless rifle on Jeep successfully neutralized enemy armor in close quarters. Recommend immediate field expansion of weapon crew doctrine. The staff at Corps HQ debate. Some scoff at the luck, but others see the tactical revolution. Mobile hunter teams, able to disappear in the hills, strike at exposed enemy armor, then vanish before pursuit can begin. Technical analysis. How David felled Goliath. The impact site on the Panzer IV becomes the day's temporary shrine. Allied tank crews run their hands over the hole beneath the turret, marveling at the penetration. Lilt Sanders, British armor advisor, remarks, "You'll find bigger guns, but not better aim." That was a crew with ice in their veins. Engineers note the shell's performance. The 57mm shell-shaped charge, though small, delivered at just the right spot. Horizontal entry path, coming from below tank gun level, the result of that mountain road's perfect geometry. Blast and heat spalled the inside, likely knocking out the firing controls and rupturing oil lines. They inspect the Jeep, too, improvised sandbagging, flex mounts, even torn strips of cloth used to absorb shock. Everyone agrees, a bigger crew, with any less nerve, would have bailed before firing. Axis perspective, rumors and doubt. Inside German lines, the loss of a Panzer IV to a single Allied truck becomes instant lore. Kruger, recovering with shrapnel wounds, is interrogated by a stern major from Division Command. How did this happen? He answers through clenched teeth. The Americans brought a cannon to a Jeep fight. I never saw such a weapon so nimble. SS and Wehrmacht officers at briefings review after-action reports. Orders go out. Increase watchfulness for Allied anti-tank teams. Prioritize road-clearing infantry. Do not underestimate light vehicles. In German camp rumors, the Jeep grows in mythology, a phantom hunter, unseen and uncatchable. Allied tactics shift. The hunter teams. Within days, field manuals are updated. Officers in the American Fifth Army and British Eighth Army assemble training teams to replicate Duval's squad setup. Jeep recoilless rifle crews attached to infantry battalions. Lessons: concealment, speed, use of terrain, hit-and-run doctrine. New shipments of 57mm and 75mm recoilless rifles arrive. Mechanics eye up Willie's Jeeps, preparing frames for mountings. Duval's squad is called to brief others, reluctantly, and with the humility of men who survived more by grit, luck, and teamwork than by textbook perfection. Monroe's field notes are circulated, listing the best kill zones, bends, inclines, rock outcroppings, reload drills under duress, how to switch firing positions between salvos, the emotional impact, the men and their peers. In the company bivouac, Duval is given a new coffee mug, hand-painted with Tank Killer. Alvarez receives a makeshift Hero of the Pass medal, a shell casing on a string. Monroe is quieter, haunted by the noise and the knowledge that for one clattering second, he held 3 lives, and maybe a dozen others behind him, in the crook of his finger. Other Jeep teams listen with awe and skepticism. Some call it suicide, others legend. The division chaplain gives a sermon. In war, faith isn't just for generals. Sometimes it's you, a few friends, a contraption, and a prayer. Local civilians, memory in stone and mud, farmers returning after the fighting find the Panzer IV still smoldering and the Jeep half buried in brush. Children throw stones at the tank. Mothers whisper stories of 3 mad Americans who defeated the dragon. Elderly shepherds speak of that day for years. The tanks feared nothing on the road until the little car with the long mouth waited in the morning shadow. A local stonemason collects steel fragments, forging a commemorative cross for the fallen tank crew and for the bravest hunters he ever saw. Weeks later, a changing war. Italy, June 1944. The battle for the Apennines grinds on, but across the high passes, the tale of Duval's Jeep-mounted recoilless rifle echoes like a secret weapon. In division after division, young mechanics and grizzled sergeants swarm over Jeep frames, bolting on mounts, strapping spare shells to fenders, painting hasty kill rings on hoods as their own form of prayer. The crew's ambush is immortalized in rumors. One Jeep can stop a tank on the right ground. Skeptics call it bravado, but battalion commanders now deploy pairs of hunter-killer teams at key passes, mountain roads, bridges, river fords. Duval becomes a reluctant instructor, leading live-fire drills with new teams. Alvarez, still soft-spoken, teaches the latest mechanics how to reinforce frames with salvaged steel. Monroe's tips are gospel. Pick your shot, aim low, trust your crew. The Germans respond, adapting to new threats. German tank crews begin traveling with point squads of infantry, rifles ready for ambush. Orders trickle down. Do not chase jeeps uphill. Shell every likely hiding spot. Never underestimate light vehicles at close quarters. Oberfeldwebel Kruger, now transferred to regimental staff, writes to his family, "The Americans have made their little cars into lions. We must be foxes to survive." Division commanders debate how best to route armor. Fewer daylight advances, more patrols ahead, and new camouflage shielding for vital engine compartments. Yet resources run thin, and the superiority of German tanks is blunted by their own vulnerability on jeep ground. Psychological impact. Courage breeds courage. Morale among the Allies shifts. Infantry squads whisper about the day a jeep chewed up a panzer. For green replacements, it's hope. For exhausted veterans, it's a relief to know bravery can tilt the odds for even the smallest crews. Monroe is quietly approached in the mess tent by soldiers who ask, "Did you really do it? Just the three of you?" He shakes his head, eyes distant. It was the mountain, the weapon, and knowing we'd never get a second chance. Duval becomes division's lucky charm, always the first to volunteer for risky patrols. He's offered another decoration and turns it down, saying, "Give me new boots and a few good men. I'll take that over a medal any day." Alvarez, praised for his engineering, writes home in a letter, "We made something out of nothing and got out alive. That's enough." David versus Goliath, tactics become doctrine. Armored specialists document the engagement at Monte Battaglia in newly updated field books. Position and camouflage are critical. Recoilless rifles must use surprise. Their reload is slow compared to tank guns. Light vehicles must move as soon as they fire, using speed and terrain. These lessons spread far beyond Italy. In France, Operation Dragoon's planners request more jeep-mounted anti-tank crews for the mountainous interior. In the Pacific, Marine recon teams test 57mm rifles on jungle trails. British units fighting through the Gothic line borrow the doctrine, sending jeeps forward with Polish and Canadian crews, each now dreaming their own version of David's shot. The men behind the story. The weeks drag into summer, and victory edges closer. Duval's squad becomes separated. Duval receives a field promotion and is wounded at Florence. Monroe fights through the Apennines, forever haunted by the echo of his shot. Alvarez survives, helping train replacements and repairing wrecked vehicles on the front. In rare quiet moments, the three meet behind the lines, sharing strong coffee, dried sausage, and the memory of that impossible morning. They laugh, but always quietly. "You never tell it just right, except to those who were there," Duval says. Civilians and local memory, legacy grows. Italian villagers, inspired by the Jeep squad, set up a handmade sign at the ambush site. "Qui il piccolo habituto il grande, here the small beat the great." Children play war in burnt-out fields, taking turns as the lone Jeep and the doomed tank. Soon, Allied officers bring dignitaries to see the spot, proof that courage, ingenuity, and a little luck can upend preconceptions of what is possible in war. The stonemason's commemorative cross stands by the road, now ringed with wildflowers and the detritus of 1,000 Allied boots. The legend spreads, a new kind of heroism. By the time Rome falls to Allied hands, Jeep versus Panzer is part of both rumor and record. Wartime journalists write glowing dispatches home, small team halts armored division. Army news films recreate the event in black and white dramatizations. Back home in the States, families read clippings about heroes in Jeeps. Recruiters cite the tale in posters. Your courage can tip the balance. Young soldiers across theaters of war look to Jeep crews with admiration and a new kind of spirit. You don't need to be invincible. You only need to be ready, steady, and brave. The final push, end of campaign and fading echoes. As the Allied advance rolls north, Italy's battlefields begin to quiet. The ridges and valleys around Monte Battaglia are dotted with grave markers, burnt vehicles, and the relics of desperate innovation. Duval's squad is broken up by war's randomness. Alvarez hospitalized after a mine blast, Monroe transferred to a recon patrol in the Po Valley, Duval promoted once more, this time to desk duty. New Jeep teams, inspired by their story, mount recoilless rifles for cleanup operations, some with success, some with tragic missteps. The Italian resistance, partisans, memorializes the Jeep battle, painting crude images of Goliath and David on stone barns, telling their children that courage sometimes rides on four wheels. The afterlife at home, Return and Remembrance, late 1945. Duvall returns to Virginia with a limp and a duffel bag of battered keepsakes, a cracked mug, torn field maps, a bent piece of Jeep frame. Alvarez walks the streets of Chicago, never comfortable in crowds, sharing only fragments of his stories. Once, we killed a tank with a Jeep. Monroe finds himself drawn to open country, teaching his kids the value of steady nerves and knowing your tools. Every year, the trio exchanges letters. Duvall's scrawled and brief, Monroe's full of quiet gratitude, Alvarez's flip and technical. Still driving a Willys. No Panzers here, but I watch the hills. The legend in doctrine, what the military learned. Army training videos replay the encounter, breaking it down. Small teams with initiative can disrupt armored thrusts. Improvised platforms, if well drilled, make for lethal surprises. Courage, clear minds, and adaptability outweigh sheer firepower in tricky terrain. The Jeep versus Panzer incident finds its way into NATO handbooks, U.S. Army field manuals, and even the recommended lecture lists for West Point cadets. Decades later, military historians debate the finer points. Some call it luck, others say the men made their own. All agree, doctrine is improved by the stories of daring, not just the records of massed battalions. Modern reflections, descendants, films, and museums. In the 1970s, a local Italian historian finds Monroe's field notes, begins a campaign for a proper memorial. By the 1980s, the museum at Monte Battaglia includes a battered Jeep, a replica recoilless rifle, and letters from Monroe's family. Alvarez's granddaughter tells the story in her history class. My abuelo stopped a tank with a car. Veteran meetings swap tales of the little squad that outthought giants. Hollywood produces 2 films about similar events. One is dramatized, another sticks to the gritty facts. 3 men, rain, nerves, 1 shot. Reflection and legacy. What it means. On the anniversary of the ambush, Duvall sits on his porch, sipping coffee as sun rises over the hills. He murmurs, mostly to himself, "It wasn't being brave, it was doing what needed done. We held our breath and aimed. Sometimes that's all war is, dust, courage, and not blinking when luck knocks." Monroe's oldest son, standing at the memorial in Italy, whispers to his children, "He was scared and he fired anyway. That's all anyone can do." Alvarez, writing late into his life, "Fix what you can, fight with what you have, make it count." Closing montage, from Italy to today. Modern Jeep crews roll over hard ground in distant lands, recoilless rifles lashed to lightweight frames, doctrine written by the ghost of that long-ago day. All around the world, young crews and old instructors remember, you don't have to be the biggest to change the outcome. Small teams, big hearts, fast hands, and eyes fearless in the cold, these remain the essence of real victory. The Jeep that stopped a tank was never just about hardware or heroics. It was a declaration in the mountain fog that courage, improvisation, and teamwork could tip the scales, could write new rules, could make legends of ordinary men. When Goliath thundered up the pass, David was ready, and the world remembers.